So I just saw Hitman, the newest movie directed by Richard Linklater, who also directed the Before trilogy, Boyhood, School of Rock. He's made a lot of fan favorites. Anyways, I was really looking forward to this movie as it premiered at TIFF and a lot of other film festivals last year, getting a lot of acclaim and praise from everyone who watched it. It was so well received, in fact, that Netflix bought the distribution rights for this movie. This is basically a rom-com starring Glenn Powell, who is an undercover cop pretending to be a hitman to try to catch people who are looking to hire hitmen. Overall, this is a really interesting premise for a movie, and it allows for the film to do some really fun, innovative, and creative stuff. It really explored the different ways these scenarios could play out, finding new characters for Glenn Powell to interact with, and it leads to some really funny on-screen relationship and character dynamics. This also allows for Glenn Powell to turn into different personas and really show his range. This is without a doubt my favorite performance of his. The way he can turn into different personas in different scenes feels so smooth and real. He is so committed to his role and is super fun to watch on screen. He's also just super charismatic and you buy him in every single role. I mean, there are scenes in this movie where he's just being a boring, normal philosophy professor at a school, and you still buy him as that because he is so devoted to his role and can act as any character. And even those scenes where, he's not trying to be this tough hitman, he still doesn't lose any of his natural charm. Even though his performance in many scenes are very over the top and silly, there's still a self-aware and satirical tone to these scenes because of the writing and performances. This movie knows what it is, and you never get a sense that the film is trying to be more serious than it actually is. I can't imagine anyone else other than Glenn Powell to lead this film, and it definitely wouldn't have worked if the lead actor was any less good. I just searched this up now, but he was actually one of the writers of this movie, so he definitely understood what the film was going for. Another reason why these scenes work so well is because of the clever writing. This is very much a screwball comedy, but instead of relying on cheap one-liners or gags, a lot of the humor is found through the situations that the characters find themselves in and how they react to the events taking place in the story. This isn't necessarily a laugh-out-loud type comedy. Even though the humor is a lot more subtle, definitely still is a crowd pleaser and will make you laugh. Now, this movie is also at its center a romance film, and going into this movie I was a little hesitant on that aspect as I didn't know if the movie was going to be able to balance the goofy, fake hitman comedic genre with a romance genre, and I didn't know if the tone was going to work. But to my surprise, I thought the romance aspect of this movie really worked and really fit into the tone and story. The two leads just have fantastic chemistry with each other, and they play off of each other so well. You really buy into their relationship and none of it feels forced or awkward. I really love how they set up the dynamics between these two characters. It was a very creative and unique relationship where when they first meet, she's actually one of the people who is trying to hire a hitman. Glenn Powell, who is the fake hitman, is trying to change her mind while still trying to act like a tough hitman. This leads to a lot of fun scenarios and sequences later in the movie. Rom-coms can usually be very predictable and formulaic, but while this movie does have its fair share of cliches, you really don't know where the story is going to go. So yeah, this movie balances the comedic and romantic aspects really well, and I really enjoyed the romance between these two lead characters. Now, while this movie is very self-aware and doesn't take itself too seriously, I was really surprised by the fact that there were actually some pretty compelling conflicts inside of this movie with all these characters. I was actually interested in Glenn Powell's character's inner conflict about his own identity, and there's some really thoughtful and thematic lines that feel genuine and purposeful. It's not overly dramatic, but I like the subtle character moments that resonates with the audience and makes us actually care about the characters that we are following on screen. This movie captures a perfect tone, being funny, quirky, and self-aware while still being compelling and heartfelt enough for us to get invested into these characters. Sure, I have some critiques with this movie. The main antagonist of the movie was pretty forgettable, and I wish that they developed him more. He's not a big part of the movie, but I wish that they did something more to make him memorable. Some of the story drags a bit in the middle here and there, but overall, this is one of the biggest surprises of the year so far. It's a simple and charming movie that knows exactly what it is and balances all all of its genres perfectly. Not an action-packed film for anyone wondering. All of this movie is based on the writing and characters, but a solid watch. It's been a long time since I was this charmed by a rom-com. Glen Powell is fantastic, and I would recommend it to pretty much anyone. It's on Netflix, which is where I watched it, but also in limited theaters if you want to have that experience. Solid rom-com. I'm giving it like a 7.5 out of 10. It's close to 8, but I just gotta rewatch it first, and yeah, go watch it. Goodbye.